Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're taking a look at Koraidon EX, which is going to be just a really fast, kind of tempo-based, aggressive fighting deck that takes advantage of Koraidon EX's Dino Cry ability, alongside with the consistent damage output it provides, as well as the higher numbers of Great Tusk EX. And that's just kind of how the deck works. You have this, which is just some really consistent energy acceleration to accelerate onto your board. This is going to be a very aggressive deck. We play 4 boss, we play 4 trekking shoes, things like that. And basically what we're just going to be saying is that Dino Cry, allowing you to accelerate up to 2 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to your basic fighting Pokemon in any way you like, and then end your turn, is a pretty consistent way of, if you go first, threatening a wild impact on turn 2. And so with 4 bosses orders on our deck, we're going to be able to take knockouts on things we're going to want to take knockouts on, hit into things we want to hit into. And yeah, so let's just jump right into the deck. Starting off with 4 copies of Koraidon EX. Like I mentioned, Dino Cry allowing you to accelerate those energies, and then has the Wild Impact attack for 2 fighting on a colorless, 220 damage, and you can't use it next turn. Which is going to be very similar to Ization, or like almost the identical attack to the Radiant EX, the like the counterpart, I guess. And he does actually have a retreat cost of 2, which I'm mentioning because it's actually pretty relevant, because being able to retreat 2 energies off of him into a Diancie and re-accelerate those energies, if they essentially move them to a different Pokemon, is really nice. If this guy had a retreat cost of 1, and funnily enough, he actually might be a little bit worse. So it's kind of interesting that he does have that 2 retreat cost, and actually does make the deck a little bit better. Yeah, it's basically just really consistent energy acceleration. That's what we're playing for when we want to find him ASAP. We have the other attacker in the deck, and that's going to be 2 copies of Great Tusk EX. This has 2 attacks, both of them are actually pretty decent. Bedrock Breaker for a single fighting energy does 40 damage, and you discard a stadium in play. And then Giganto Tusk for 3 fighting energy deals 250 damage, and you do 50 damage to yourself. And you do have 250 HP, so you're pretty bulky. Before you use a Giganto Tusk and do damage to yourself, you're probably not going to be using, or actually be getting one-shot. And then that Bedrock Breaker attack is actually not that bad. So you're able to poke for just a single energy, poke something, and then finish it off with a Giganto Tusk is not bad. So 2 pretty good attacks here. Something else cool that you can do is that you actually have a copy of Grant in the deck, which will increase the fighting Pokemon's attacks by 30 damage, which means just for a single energy, if you play a Grant, you can actually one-shot a Comfey with Bedrock Breaker, which is really nice, because Lost Zone decks are super popular in this new format. Then we have 2 copies of Diancie, and this is because being able to retreat or switch into Diancie for a turn, in order to get a Dino Cry off to accelerate energies to your board, because you really need to keep that energy in play. The only like actual consistent form of energy acceleration is going to be the Dino Cry on Koraidon. So being able to have Diancie to retreat into your entire deck is basics. So being able to retreat into Diancie to make you immune to boss, while you set up some more energy. And other cool thing about Diancie is that your opponent knocks it out, then you are going to be able to turn on Roxanne at the best time. Then we have 1 copy of Radiant Greninja, because we need to get those energy cards in the discard pile to activate Dino Cry. Then 1 copy of Lumineon, because getting out supporters from our deck is very important. Okay, then the supporter cards for Research, which is probably expected. Research is definitely the best supporter post-rotation. And playing maximum of it, we also want energy cards in our discard pile once again for the Dino Cry, so can help us with that. It just turns through our deck. And then, as I mentioned, 4 boss, just because our deck is basically trying to make our deck pull off turn 1 Dino Cry for 2, or maybe 1. If you get 1 down energy attachment, that'll work too. Dino Cry, that's consistently possible, which means that if you have consistent energy acceleration combined with consistent gust effects, you're going to have a really commanding deck that that can take advantage of anything your opponent tries to put down on the bench, which is just really nice. That's just kind of the strength of this deck. It's just a big fighting type guys that are hitting for lots of damage is basically the idea here. Let me have 2 copies of Judge for that little bit of extra disruption that Judge provides. It can be really nice to just be able to judge a Lost Box hand away, because the Lost Box can get a large hand very quickly. So we just get rid of that. And if we're just going to judge and then Dino Cry, there's not really much we're going to need to draw off. Judge that will allow us to Dino Cry, maybe an energy card, so we can just conceal cards to get that second one in the discard pile, something like that. We have some one-of supporters. I already mentioned Grant. which makes your fighting type Pokemon do 30 more damage, and you can actually recover it from the discard if you discard 2 cards in your hand. So yeah, you can use this on the Great Tusk to one-shot a Comfey. It lets you reach all the way to 80 with the Great Tusk. Giganto Tusk, so you can one-shot V-Stars. If you have Belt plus Grant, which both are 1-1s, but if you have your 1 Belt and your Grant, you can actually make Koraidon one-shot a V-Star, which is nice too. Yeah, just Grant, just overall really, really solid card. Then we have 1 copy of Roxanne. Like I mentioned, if your opponent knocks out a Diancie, you're going to be able to turn on the Roxanne, which is super, super nice. And then finally 1 copy of Raihan, because like I said, we only have 1 like actual consistent way of energy acceleration, which is Dino Cry. But having that Raihan there, just so we don't have to Dino Cry, is going to be super duper helpful. Of course, we have Lumineon to search it out if we need. Then going into items, 4 Ultra Ball, of course, for discarding those energies. Similarly, we have 4 Trekkie Shoes to turn through our deck, as well as if we find an energy, we can discard it. 3 Nest Balls, because in addition to Ultra Ball, we're going to need to set up our board. We can also just goods our Pokemon. Our entire deck is basics, which makes Nest Ball super, super good. We have 2 copies of Gutsy Pickaxe, which if you find a cut, you could bring up to 3. But it's just a tiny bit unreliable, and it's definitely just worse than Trekkie Shoes. Gutsy Pickaxe, I'm not surprised if you don't know what this card does, but it's basically just a turbo card. Reveal the top card of your deck, so your opponent doesn't get to see it. And that's just so they confirm that if it's a fighting energy, you could attach it to 1 of your benched fighting Pokemon, or 20 benched Pokemon. Which, on the off chance we do hit a fighting energy, can be really big for us sometimes. But other than that, it's just going to be another just kind of consistency card to help you turn through your deck. And then we have switching cards, which is going to be 2 switch cards and an escape rope. Just because escape rope being able to force stuff active is just good. And switch card, of course, also lets us heal. And since we do have this new tool card, which is called Rock Chestplate, that makes your Pokemon take less damage, being able to heal it out of the range of like Cramorant, especially for the Great Tusk if you're dealing damage to yourself. Being able to put it out of range of Cramorant is pretty good. So switch card that heal can be good sometimes, and then of course there's escape rope. Like we don't even have to boss. If our opponent only has 1 bench Pokemon we want to knock out, we can just rope instead of having to boss. We can use our supporter for research. Then we have, like I mentioned, the Rock Chestplate, which is a new tool card that says the fighting Pokemon this card is attached to takes less damage from your opponent's attacks, which is just really good. It brings your Koraidon, which is a 230, which is kind of an annoying number for a lot of decks to actually hit already. For example, like double Cramorant hitting 2 times and you won't knock you out. Your Rhydons won't knock you out unless they have like Regieleki, they won't knock you out. So the HP HP number is really, really nice on the Koraidon, but just being able to bring like the Koraidon up to like that 260 HP, Great Tusk can bring all the way to a monstrous 280, which is not as high when you think about in the context of its attack, which is dealing damage to itself, but still pretty darn high. So the Rock Chestplate is really good, and the only reason we're not playing more is because we have a couple other tool cards you need to attach, and one of those is EXP Share. Once again, we don't have very much consistent energy acceleration in our deck. So having that EXP Share combined with that Raihan is going to help us kind of stream energy, so maybe we only have to use like Dino Cry maybe once in the middle of the game to kind of keep up with our energies. Then I mentioned we have 1 copy of Choice Belts in the deck. Then Stadium cards is actually going to have 2 copies of Primordial Altar, which is a kind of weird stadium. It sees no play right now. I think it was meant to see play with Lugia and Archeops, but you have better ways to discard that in Standard, Quick Draw mainly. But Primordial Altar is a stadium card that says once the each player's turn, that player may reveal the top card of their deck, and if it is, or no, they can look at the. Sorry, I'm going to restart. If they look at the top card of your deck, and then they can decide if they want to leave it there or discard it. And one of the reasons that you might be thinking is like, well, isn't Pokestop better? And not really. There's some cards in the deck you really don't want to discard with Pokestop. Roxanne and Raihan would be annoying to discard with Pokestop. A boss, sometimes you need all 4 of those bosses to win the game. Especially discarding Pokemon can be really bad sometimes. Like discarding 1 or 2 Great Tusks off of Pokestop is not great. But I think Primordial Altar, it fills the stadium space, but also I think it gives you a lot more control. It lets you keep it there if it's a card you want to like Trekkie Shoes into. It lets you keep it there if it's fighting energy. You've got the Pickaxe, so it lets you keep it. It lets you discard it if it's a fighting energy, so you can Dino Cry. It just has a lot of utility And if you're churning through, it could also just help you with the churn through your deck. Like some of these cards like Ultra Ball and S Ball, usually in the mid to late game you're not going to really need, so you can just like basically just thin them out of your deck with Primordial Altar. And then we have energy. So we do have a decent amount here. We have 14 basic fighting energy. Let's just make this look all nice here. Okay. We have 14 basic fighting. And I started out with, I think, 11. And 11 was way too little. I was not pulling out consistent enough, or at least consistent as I would like. Dino Cries, things like that. Or the Dino Cries for the energy, like the 2 energy, which is one of the main problems. So yeah, we're going to have the 14 basic energy. And yeah, that's going to be the Koraidon Great Tusk deck. Just a really overall aggressive deck that just tries to hit hard and hit fast. Just being able to boss things up at will almost. And yeah, that's the idea, guys. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like. If you guys want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. I do have deck lists made for the starter EXs. And the only reason I did not do a video on those, or one of those today, is because I felt like I already have so many decks that I have no videos on for this upcoming format, so it didn't really make sense to jump forward to even more new cards. But if you guys do want to see those, maybe I'll do a video on those. So if you guys made it here and you guys want to see that, then let me know. Other than that, that's going to be it. Hope you guys liked it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.